Hey guys, and welcome back. Tonight, our journey takes us to one of the wonders of the world, a structure so vast it is said to be visible from the heavens, the Great Wall of China. We picture a magnificent stone dragon snaking over majestic mountains, a testament to the power and ambition of emperors. But you will not see it as a tourist. You are not here to admire the view from its battlements. You are here because you were taken from your farm, your family, your life, and you have been ordered to build it. This is the story of the mud, the stones, the calloused hands, and the unbearable exhaustion behind the legend. So, before the morning horn calls us to another day of labor, take a moment to like the video and subscribe if you enjoy these quiet journeys into the past. As always, it is a pleasure to see where you are all listening from, so let me know in the comments. All right, dim the lights, let the world outside fade away, and let us step back in time. You are not awakened by the sun. The sun is a distant, forgotten luxury here in the deep, shadowed valley at the foot of the mountains. You are awakened by a sound, the harsh, splintering cough of the man sleeping on the straw pallet next to you. It is a wet, hacking sound, a cough that has settled deep in his lungs over the past weeks. And it is the only morning prayer you ever hear. You open your eyes. The world is a profound and absolute blackness. You are inside a long, low, communal hut, the structure of rough-hewn logs and packed earth, which you share with 60 other men. The only light is the faint, dying orange glow from the central fire pit, now little more than a bed of embers. In the flickering, distorted light, the sleeping forms around you look like corpses, mounds of dirty rags and tangled limbs. The first sensation is the cold. It is a damp, invasive cold that has nothing to do with the clean, sharp frost of the outdoors. This is a human cold, born of the damp earth floor, the unwashed bodies, and the thin, threadbare blankets. It has seeped into your bones through your thin straw pallet, and your body is a single, continuous, dull ache. Your muscles, screaming from yesterday's labor of hauling rock, are stiff and knotted. To move is to invite a fresh wave of pain. The second sensation is the smell. It is the first and last thing you experience every day. It is the smell of humanity at its most basic and miserable. It is the thick, sour scent of stale sweat, the ammonia-sharp tang of urine from the overflowing bucket in the corner, the musty, decaying smell of damp straw, and the smoky, greasy odor of the dying fire. It is the smell of a cage, and you are one of the animals trapped within it. For a single, beautiful, and agonizing moment, your waking mind forgets where you are. You are back in your own home, in your village. You can smell the rich, dark earth of your small farm. You can feel the warmth of your wife sleeping beside you. You can hear the quiet breathing of your son in his cot. It is a memory so real, so vivid, it is a physical presence in the darkness. And then, the coughing man next to you spits onto the dirt floor, and the illusion shatters. The memory vanishes, and the cold, stinking reality of the camp crashes back in on you. You are not a farmer. You are not a husband or a father. You are a conscript. You are a number. You are property of the Great Ming, sent here to this remote, God's-forsaken mountain range to build the Emperor's Great Wall. You are a builder, but you have never felt so completely unmade. A low murmur begins to fill the hut as other men are woken by the cold or by the sounds of their neighbors. It is a mixture of languages, the rough dialects of 100 different villages from across the province, all thrown together into this single, suffering mass. You hear a man weeping softly in the darkness. You hear another cursing under his breath. These are the only conversations you have. You pull your single, coarse blanket tighter around your shoulders. It is thin and offers little comfort, but it is the only thing in this world that is yours. You lie there, listening to the miserable symphony of the waking camp. You do not want to move. You want to stay here, in this small pocket of relative inaction, and pray that the day never begins. But then you hear a new sound from outside. The sharp, angry shouts of the overseers beginning their rangs. Their voices cut through the thin walls of the hut, followed by the percussive thump of a wooden staff hitting a door. The camp is waking up, not by choice, but by force. Slowly, painfully, you force your aching body to sit up. The movement sends a fresh wave of dizziness through your head from the lack of food. You look towards the fire pit. A servant, one of the permanent camp staff, is already there, stirring the embers and throwing on a few handfuls of dried grass, which smolders and fills the hut with even more thick, choking smoke. The morning meal is served. It is not brought to you. You must join the shuffling, silent line of men, each holding a rough pottery bowl. A silent cook, his face as grim and gray as the morning, stands over a large iron pot and ladles a single scoop of gruel into each bowl. It is the same meal you eat every day. Thin, watery millet, boiled with a handful of salt. It is not food. It is fuel. It is a calculated measure of energy, just enough to allow you to perform a day's hard labor without collapsing. You take your bowl and return to your spot, huddling over it, wolfing down the lukewarm paste in seconds, trying to ignore the taste, focusing only on the small, fleeting sensation of warmth it creates in your empty stomach. Before the last man has even finished his meal, a great horn sounds from the center of the camp. It is a long, deep, mournful blast. It is the signal for the morning muster. The day has officially begun. The brief, miserable respite of the night is over. You place your empty bowl on the dirt floor and rise, your body a collection of aches held together by a thin thread of will. It is time to face the mountain. The horn's mournful blast echoes through the valley, a sound that commands obedience. It is a sound that pulls you from the relative shelter of the hut and into the raw, biting cold of the pre-dawn morning. You join a shuffling, silent river of men, hundreds of you, flowing from the doorways of the identical long huts into the central clearing of the camp. This is the muster ground. This is where your day is given its shape and its purpose. The world here is a study in gray. The ground is a vast expanse of frozen, rutted mud, as hard and unforgiving as iron. A low, clinging mist coils around your ankles, a ghostly exhalation from the damp earth. The sky above is not black anymore, but a high, thin, starless gray, a featureless ceiling that offers no hope of warmth or light. The air is different from the thick, human air of the hut. It is thin, sharp, and so cold it feels like swallowing a shard of glass with every breath. All around you, the great, dark teeth of the mountains loom, their peaks lost in the clouds, silent and judgmental witnesses to your misery. You take your place in the assembly, huddling for warmth with the other men from your village. You are a sea of ragged, shivering humanity. You look at the faces around you in the growing, weak light. They are gaunt, their cheekbones sharp, their skin stretched tight over their skulls. Their heads are shaved, a mark of their status as convicts or conscripts, a way to strip them of their identity and control the spread of lice. Their eyes hold a familiar, terrifying emptiness, a look of men who have been pushed past despair into a state of simple mechanical endurance. You are no longer farmers, craftsmen, or spallers. You are a single entity, a shivering, anonymous mass of forced labor. At the head of the clearing, on a slightly raised wooden platform, stand the figures of authority. They are a different species. They are well-fed, their faces fleshy and red from the cold, not pale and gaunt. They wear thick, padded winter clothes of dark blue cotton, their collars trimmed with fur. The soldiers of the garrison lean on their spears, their expressions a mixture of boredom and contempt. The overseers, your immediate masters, stand with their arms crossed, bamboo canes or leather whips tucked into their belts. They are not just symbols of authority. They are tools of the trade, used to encourage the slow and discipline the defiant. You look at them, and you see no personal malice. Their cruelty is not born of hatred. It is born of necessity. They have their own quotas to meet, their own superiors to please. You are not a man to them. You are a resource. You are a number on a ledger, a pair of hands to be used until you break, at which point you will be replaced. A clerk, a small, hunched man wrapped in a fur cloak, steps forward onto the platform. He is perhaps the only one here, besides the chief overseer. He can read and write. He holds a set of bound bamboo slips. He does not call out names. A name is a connection to a family, to a life. You have no life here. Your name was taken from you when you were taken from your village. The clerk's voice is a thin, reedy drone in the vast, cold silence. He calls out the names of the villages from which you were conscripted, followed by the number of men expected. Village of the lower stream, he drones. 40 men. A group shuffles forward. An overseer with a long, drooping mustache steps toward them, his bamboo cane held like a scepter. He walks down their line, counting them off, not with a finger, but with a sharp poke of the cane to each man's chest. 1, 2, 3. His count is loud, deliberate, a declaration of ownership. When he is finished, he nods to the clerk, who makes a mark on his slips. You wait, your stomach a cold, tight knot of anticipation. You listen to the litany of forgotten places, of homes that now seem like they belong to a different world. Village of the High Meadow, 25 men. Village of the Red Clay, 60 men. Then you hear it. Village of the Willow Grove, the clerk calls out. 12 men. You and me 11 other men from your home shuffle forward into the open. You keep your eyes on the frozen mud at your feet. You do not want to meet the overseer's gaze. The man with the mustache approaches your line. You can smell the sour wine on his breath as he passes. He begins his count, the tip of his cane a hard percussive jab against each man's chest. 1, 2, 3. He pokes you. You are number 7. The jab is hard, meant to remind you of your powerlessness. 10, 11. He stops. He counts again, this time more slowly, his eyes narrowing. 11. He barks at the clerk. The clerk looks down at his bamboo slips. The roster says 12 men from Willow Grove. A tense silence falls over your small group. The overseer walks back down the line, his eyes scanning your faces. Which one of you is missing? He demands. No one speaks. You all know who it is. It is old Zhao, a man in his 50s, who had a cough just like the man on the pallet next to yours. Only his was worse. You remember hearing him struggle for breath in the deepest part of the night. Then you remember hearing only silence. The overseer sees the answer in your faces. He makes a disgusted sound in the back of his throat. He turns to the clerk. 1 less from Willow Grove, he says, as if discussing a miscounted sack of grain. The clerk takes his stylus and with a quick, neat stroke, scrapes the character for 12 from the bamboo and replaces it with 11. Old Zhao, a man with a wife and grandchildren and a small plot of land he loved, has been officially erased from the world. The great machine does not stop for one broken part. When the count is finally complete, the chief overseer, a hard-faced man with a long, thin scar on his cheek, steps forward. His voice is a harsh bark that cuts through the morning air. He does not speak of glory, of the emperor, or of protecting the realm. He speaks the crude, brutal language of labor. "Quarry team," he shouts. The master mason is complaining. He needs 50 foundation blocks by noon. Your quota yesterday was 40. You will make up the difference today, or you will not receive your evening meal. Move! A great mass of men, hundreds of them, shuffles off towards the dark gash of the quarry at the base of the mountain. "Hauling teams," he continues. "The south path is ice. We lost 2 men and a sledge of stone yesterday. You will use the winding east path. It is twice the distance. You will work twice as hard. Go." Another group detaches itself and begins the long trudge up the mountain. You wait, your heart pounding. Your duty for the day is about to be assigned. Your fate is in his hands. He looks down at the remaining men, at your group. "You," he says, his eyes sweeping over you without seeing you. "The masons on the west tower need mortar. You will work the mixing pits. All day. Go." The muster is dismissed. The great miserable army of conscripts breaks apart into its designated battalions of labor. The sun is just now cresting the eastern mountains. Its first rays a weak golden light that finally illuminates the full, horrifying scale of the wall. A great, wounded dragon of earth and stone, crawling up the side of the mountain. You turn with the other men assigned to your task and begin to walk, not up the mountain, but towards the grate. Muddy pits where you will spend the next 12 hours mixing stone, sand, and water. Another day of breaking your body upon the anvil of the Emperor's will has begun. The morning muster dissolves, its purpose served. The great, miserable mass of men fractures into smaller, designated streams of labor, each group shuffling off toward its own specific torment for the day. You were initially assigned to the mortar pits, a day of back-breaking but ground-level work. But as you turn to follow that group, the sharp voice of the chief overseer cuts through the cold air, his words changing your fate. "You," he barks, pointing a leather-gloved finger directly at you and a dozen other men. "Not the pits today. The hauling team on the west path lost 2 men yesterday. You are the replacements. Get your loads. You are already behind schedule." A cold dread, entirely different from the fear of the overseer, washes over you. The hauling team, the west path. Every man in the camp knows what that means. It means the climb. It means the ice. It means the worst and most dangerous non-skilled job on the entire mountain. You exchange a brief, grim look with another man from your village who was also chosen. There is no protest. There is no argument. There is only a weary, fatalistic acceptance. You turn from the relative safety of the valley floor and head towards the supply depot at the base of the mountain path. Your load is not a single massive stone. The hauling of those is left to larger teams with sledges and oxen on the gentler slopes. Your task is to be a mule. You are assigned a large, crudely woven wicker basket, packed to the brim with heavy, sharpened iron chisel heads and new hammerheads. The basket is fitted with 2 rough leather straps. With the help of another man, you heave it onto your back. The weight is immense, a solid, deadening pressure that drives the air from your lungs and forces you into a permanent, stooped posture. The leather straps, stiff with cold, dig viciously into the thin wool of your tunic and the flesh of your shoulders. This will be your companion for the next hour. You and your new team, a silent, shuffling line of about 30 men, begin the ascent. The path is not a road. It is a narrow, treacherous track, a crude scar carved into the steep side of the mountain. It is a relentless, unforgiving climb, a staircase designed by a cruel god, with steps made of loose scree, frozen mud, and jagged rock. The first 10 minutes on a battle against your own screaming muscles. The path is immediately steep, and your calves and thighs, already aching from 100 previous days of labor, begin to burn with a white-hot fire. Your breath comes in ragged, desperate gasps. The freezing air, a painful rasp in your throat. The 70 pounds of iron on your back feels less like a tool basket and more like a small boulder, trying to pull you backwards down the mountain with every step. A world narrows to the few feet of treacherous ground before you. You do not look up at the peak. To do so would be to invite despair. You do not look down. To do so would be to invite the dizzying, terrifying vertigo of the steep drop beside you. Your entire existence becomes the placement of your next footstep. You learn to read the language of the path. A patch of dark, wet-looking rock is a sheet of black ice waiting to send you to your death. A patch of loose gravel must be navigated with a slow, deliberate shuffle to avoid starting a small landslide that could take out the man behind you. The sounds of the climb are the sounds of pure human misery. The air is filled with the collective rhythmic panting of 30 laboring men. You hear the grunt of the man in front of you as he heaves himself over a large rock. You hear the scrape and clatter of the iron tools in your own basket, a constant metallic reminder of the weight you carry. You hear the sharp, barking commands of the single soldier assigned to escort your team, a man who walks unburdened, his spear held loosely in his hand. "Faster!" he shouts, his voice echoing in the thin mountain air. The masons are waiting. Do you want them to stand idle because of your weakness? He prods a man who is slowed to a halt, his back against a rock wall, with the butt of his spear. The man stumbles, then continues his climb, his face a mask of silent hatred. As you climb higher, the valley floor recedes. The great camp shrinks until it is just a collection of small, dirty smudges in the distance. You can see the other work teams, tiny lines of ants, crawling over the vast body of the mountain. The scale of the world from up here is both majestic and terrifying. The jagged peaks around you seem to touch the gray, unforgiving sky. The wind, which was a mere whisper in the valley, is a constant, physical pressure up here, threatening your balance with every gust. You think of the gentle, rolling hills of your home province. You think of the soft, dark earth of your farm. This place is an alien world, a landscape of hard edges, of brutal inclines, of rock and ice. To survive the climb, you must purge your mind of such memories. To think of home is to be reminded of all you have lost, and despair is a weight even heavier than the iron on your back. You focus on the small things, the rhythm of your breathing, the swing of your arms. The next safe place to put your foot. After what feels like a lifetime, you see it above you, the wall. It is not the finished, magnificent structure you have seen in paintings. It is a raw, chaotic construction site, a jagged line of stone and wooden scaffolding clinging precariously to the mountainside. You muster your last reserves of strength and pull yourself up the final, steepest section of the path. You reach the work level and stumble forward, your body trembling with exhaustion. You shrug the heavy basket from your shoulders, and it lands on the ground with a loud, crashing thud. The sudden release from the weight is so profound you almost fall over. You stand there, leaning against the cold, half-finished wall, your chest heaving, your body slick with sweat that is already beginning to freeze in the biting wind. The journey is over. You have made it. But as you look around at the frantic, dangerous, and noisy world of the construction site, you know that your ordeal has only just begun. You have simply traveled from the misery of the climb to the terror of the wall itself. You lean against the cold, rough-hewn stones of the half-finished wall, your chest heaving, every muscle in your body trembling with the aftershocks of the agonizing climb. For a few precious moments, you are invisible. The overseer's attention is on a team of men struggling with a great wooden winch further down the line. This brief respite, This stolen moment of inaction is a luxury more valuable than any coin. It allows you, for the first time, to truly see the world you now inhabit. The worksite is not a place of architectural grandeur. It is a raw, open wound upon the body of the mountain. The natural beauty of the landscape, the ancient pines, the moss-covered rocks, the gentle contours of the earth has been utterly obliterated. In its place is a scene of organized, brutal chaos. The ground is a churned, ankle-deep morass of white stone dust, gray mud, sharp-edged rubble, and wood shavings. The very air is thick with this dust, a fine, gritty powder that coats your tongue, clogs your nostrils, and makes the back of your throat raw. You have learned to live with a constant, shallow cough. Before you, the Great Wall itself is not the magnificent stone dragon of the Emperor's dreams. In this stage of its life, it is a hideous, jagged thing, a broken spine of rock and earth. It stretches away from you in both directions, following the very ridge of the mountain. But it is a creature of fits and starts. In one section, the outer stone facing is complete, rising smooth and sheer for 20 feet. 100 paces further on, there is nothing but a great earthen rampart. The core of the wall waiting for its stone skin. In other places, there are vast gaps where construction has not even begun. The two ends of the wall waiting to be joined like the jaws of a monstrous beast. The most striking feature is the scaffolding. It is not the strong, well-ordered timber scaffolding of the capital. It is a chaotic, terrifying web of bamboo poles, lashed together with what looks like flimsy rope. It clings to the face of the wall like a mad spider's nest, swaying gently in the constant, biting wind. Men, looking like insects from your vantage point, crawl all over this precarious structure, carrying baskets of mortar and positioning heavy stones. You watch one man lose his footing high above, his flailing arms just managing to catch a pole as his legs dangle over a 50-foot drop. No one shouts a warning. No one stops working. He pulls himself back up, and the work continues. Such moments are not emergencies. They are simply part of the day. The silence of the mountain is dead, murdered by the cacophony of human industry. This place has its own terrible music. The dominant sound is the constant, high-pitched clink, clink, clink of hundreds of iron chisels on stone, a sound like a million angry crickets. This is punctuated by the sharper, louder crack of a master mason splitting a block with a perfectly aimed blow from his heavy hammer. You hear the dull, heavy thump of a stone being lowered into place on the wall, a sound that you feel in the soles of your feet. And under it all are the voices. Not conversations, but the sounds of pure labor. The sharp, barking shouts of the overseers, voices that cut through the din like a whip. The low, rhythmic, grunting chants of the hauling teams as they pull in unison on a thick rope, using the cadence of their voices to coordinate their immense effort. Ha, yup, ha, yup. The whole site is a factory for turning mountains into walls. And the fuel it consumes is the strength and spirit of men like you. You look around and see the different guilds of this world of suffering. In the distance, at the raw rock face of the quarry, you see the silhouettes of the quarrymen, the lowest of the low. You see the rhythmic rise and fall of their great sledgehammers as they perform the most brutal work of all. You see other hauling teams, just like yours, snaking their way up the treacherous paths, their backs bent under impossible loads. And high above, on the scaffolding, you see the masons. They are the aristocrats of this world. They do not haul or quarry. Their work is one of skill and precision. They stand exposed to the wind, their movements economical and focused, slowly, painstakingly, fitting the stones together like a great impossible puzzle. You watch this scene of frantic, ant-like activity, and you are filled with a sense of your own profound insignificance. You are one of thousands, a nameless, faceless drone in this great hive. Your individual life, a meaningless speck in the face of this monumental task. But as your eyes follow the jagged line of the wall as it snakes across the spine of the mountain ridge, you understand, on a visceral level, its purpose. It is a barrier, a line drawn across the world. On this side lies the empire, your village, everything you have ever known. On the other lies the great, empty northern steppe, the land of the horse lords, the barbarians. You are not just building a wall, you are building the very edge of civilization. This understanding brings no pride, only a grim, weary sense of your small, painful part in this vast imperial dream. Your brief moment of reflection is shattered. An overseer, his face a mask of impatience, has spotted you standing idle. "You, hauler!" he shouts, his voice a harsh bark that cuts through the noise. He points a finger, not at you, but at the quarry. The masons need stone, not your admiration for the view. Get to the quarry, move! The spell is broken. You are pulled back into the immediate, brutal reality of your day. You push yourself off the cold wall, your aching body screaming in protest, and you turn your back on the chaotic panorama of the worksite. You begin the short, grim walk toward your next specific torment, the quarry. The overseer's shout sends you stumbling away from the base of the wall. You leave the chaotic world of the construction site behind and walk toward the quarry. A journey that feels like a descent from one circle of hell to a deeper, more brutal one. The air grows thicker with every step. The foul, white stone dust becoming a choking fog that coats your tongue and makes your eyes water. The sounds of the worksite, the shouts, the winches, the general cacophony of construction fade, replaced by a more primal and terrifying soundscape. It is the sound of a mountain being broken. It is the deafening, percussive rhythm of pure destruction. You arrive at the edge of the quarry, and you pause, not out of leisure, but out of a primal, instinctual fear. The quarry is a violent, vertical wound in the side of the mountain, a great cliff face of raw, exposed granite. It is a place of sharp angles and brutal geometries. The ground is a treacherous sea of rubble, a chaotic jumble of stone fragments ranging from fine, sharp-edged gravel to massive, half-split boulders the size of small huts. Everything, the rocks, the ground, and everything, the very air itself, is covered in a uniform blanket of pale gray dust, giving the entire landscape a dead, ghostly appearance, as if you are standing on the surface of the moon. The noise is a physical assault. It is the constant, deafening crack of heavy iron sledgehammers striking stone, a sound so powerful you feel it reverberate in your chest, a deep, jarring percussion that seems to shake the very foundations of the mountain. It is the high-pitched, grinding screech of stone rubbing against stone as a great block is pried loose. And underpinning it all is the ceaseless, sharp tink, tink, tink of hundreds of smaller hammers and chisels, a sound like a swarm of metallic insects chipping away at the face of the cliff. But worse than the noise is the dust. It is an ever-present, swirling fog of fine, pulverized rock. You watch the men working within it, their forms hazy and indistinct, like ghosts in a blizzard. You know what this dust does. You see it in the older men who have worked the quarries for more than a year. You see it in the way they breathe, a shallow, painful wheezing. You hear it in the deep, rattling cough that shakes their bodies in the night, a cough that brings up a thick, gray phlegm. They call it the stone lung, and you know it is a slow, creeping death sentence. The fine, sharp particles enter your body with every breath, settling in your lungs and slowly, inexorably turning them to stone. An overseer, his own face wrapped in a cloth to ward off the worst of the dust, points at you with a bamboo cane. "You," he barks, his voice muffled. "Join that team. The masons need foundation blocks. The Emperor will not wait for you to catch your breath." Dot. You trudge into the heart of the dusty chaos toward a team of 5 other men who are gathered around a colossal, half-split boulder. Your task is simple. Your task is to break. One of the men, a more experienced quarryman, holds a long iron chisel against a flaw in the great rock. Your job, and the job of the 3 men beside you, is to swing the sledgehammers. The hammers are heavy, their iron heads crudely forged, their long wooden handles worn smooth and dark with the sweat of 100 other men. You take your position. The leader gives a sharp guttural shout, "Ha!" and the first man swings his hammer, bringing it down on the head of the chisel with a deafening clang. Then the second man, "Ha!" and the third. Then it is your turn. You heave the heavy hammer up, your back and shoulder muscles screaming in protest. You swing it in a wide arc, putting all of your body's weight and all of your desperation into the blow. Ha! The iron head connects with the chisel, and a jarring, painful shock travels up the handle, through your arms, and into your very teeth. The work is a rhythm. It is a dance of pure, brutal exertion. Ha! Clang! Ha! Clang! Ha! Clang! Ha! Clang! You fall into the cadence of it, your mind emptying of all thought. You cannot think of your family. You cannot think of your farm. To let your mind wander is to risk breaking the rhythm, to risk a misplaced blow that could glance off the chisel and smash the hand of the man holding it. There is no room for thought here. There is only the weight of the hammer, the burning in your muscles, the sweat stinging your eyes, and the deafening, percussive sound of your labor. After what feels like an eternity of this, the leader calls a halt. A thin, hairline crack has appeared in the great boulder. Now, a different kind of work begins. The chisel is removed, and small wooden wedges are hammered into the crack. Water is poured over them, and then you wait. The water will soak into the wood, and tonight, when the temperature plummets, the water will freeze, expand, and with a great groaning crack, the power of nature will finish the job you have started. Your task is now to clear the rubble from a previous day's splitting. You kneel on the sharp gravel, your knees protesting, and begin to move smaller, sharp-edged rocks into a large wicker basket with your bare hands. The skin on your palms and fingers, already covered in a thick layer of calluses, is quickly scraped raw. A small cut opens on your knuckle, and the blood that wells up is immediately turned to a gray paste by the stone dust. You do not stop. A small cut is a part of the job. You are no longer a man. You are a machine made of muscle and bone. You are a thing that lifts, a thing that swings, a thing that hauls. You are a component in the great imperial engine of construction. You look at the massive, perfectly hewn blocks that will be sent up to the master masons, and you look at the mountain of useless, sharp-edged rubble you have created, and you understand your place in this world. The masons are here to build. You are here to break. The morning in the quarry is a lifetime of its own, a brutal education in the language of breaking. You learn the difference between the sharp, clean crack of a successful split and the dull, sickening thud of a misplaced hammer blow. Your body, which ached when you woke, has now been pushed through the wall of pain into a state of numb, mechanical endurance. Your hands are raw, your shoulders scream, and your lungs are coated with a fine, gray dust that you know you will never be able to cough out. Just as you think you cannot lift the heavy sledgehammer for one more swing, the overseer's horn blows, a long, piercing note that signals a change of tasks. You are not granted a rest. You are simply repurposed. You, and you, the overseer barks, his cane jabbing towards you and a dozen other men from the quarry teams. The masons on the west tower have their tools. Now they cry for stone. You are a hauling team. Get to it. To move from the quarry to the hauling grounds is to move from a world of sharp, explosive violence to one of slow, grinding, and immense pressure. You walk a few hundred paces along the base of the mountain to an area where the great, roughly hewn foundation blocks, the fruit of yesterday's quarrying, lie waiting like a clutch of enormous geometric eggs. Your new team assembles. It is a much larger group, nearly 40 men, a mix of conscripts like yourself, and a few larger, more muscular convicts, their faces hard, and their bodies covered in the tattoos of their former lives as criminals. There is no camaraderie here. You are all just beasts of burden. Your individual strengths and weaknesses irrelevant. Your only value in the collective, brute force you can provide. Your target is a single, colossal block of granite. It is a monster of a stone, roughly squared, as tall as your chest and twice as wide. It sits inert and immovable, a piece of the mountain's very soul, seeming to mock your small, soft human forms. Your task to move this impossible object 200 paces, from here to the base of the scaffolding where the masons are waiting. The technology for this task is as simple as it is ancient. Great, thick coils of hemp rope, as thick as your arm, lie on the ground. Beside them is a pile of smooth, rounded logs, each about 6 feet long, which will serve as rollers. And there are the levers, 3 immense beams of solid oak, each requiring 10 men to operate. The work begins under the shouted commands of a new overseer, a man with a voice like grinding stones and a face that seems to be carved from the same granite as the block. The first problem is to lift the stone, which weighs more than 20 oxen, high enough to place the first rollers beneath it. Levers, the overseer roars. On the south side, move! You and the others rush to the great wooden beams. You are assigned to the end of one. You join 9 other men, your hands finding space on the rough, splintery wood. On the overseer's command, you all throw your entire body weight downwards. Heave, he screams. The wood groans, the sound of a living thing in agony. You feel the immense, unyielding resistance of the stone. For a moment, nothing happens. The stone is eternal, immovable. Again, all of you, heave. You strain, your muscles screaming, your teeth gritted. Your feet slip on the loose gravel. Beside you, a man's face is purple with the effort. And then you feel it. A slight give. A groan, not of wood, but of the earth itself. The great stone block lifts a fraction of an inch from the ground. It is a victory against the very laws of the world. In that moment, a team of younger, more nimble boys scrambles under the shadow of the great stone and shoves the first 3 log rollers into place. Release, the overseer shouts. You all let go, and the stone settles onto the rollers with a deep, shuddering thump that you feel in your teeth. The most difficult part is over. Now, the merely impossible part begins. The thick hemp ropes are looped around the great stone. You and 19 other men take your place on the main pulling rope. You find a position, your straw sandals digging into the dirt for leverage, your raw, calloused hands wrapping around the coarse, hairy fibers of the rope. The overseer takes his place at the front, like the drummer on a great war galley. He will not pull. He will provide the rhythm. He raises his hand. Ready, he bellows. Heave. You lean forward, taking the slack. And pull. 40 men throw their entire collective being into the rope. A great unified groan escapes from 40 chests. The rope stretches, creaking and groaning, the fibers so taut they look as though they will snap. Your shoulders feel as if they are being ripped from their sockets. The world narrows to the few inches of rope in your hands and the back of the man in front of you. For a long, agonizing moment, nothing happens. The stone resists. It is the mountain, and it does not wish to be moved. Again, the overseer roars, not with anger, but with a musician's sense of timing. Heave and pull. You pull again, a second coordinated burst of desperate, straining energy, and you feel it. A deep, grinding shudder. The wooden rollers beneath the stone groan in protest, and the great block moves. It moves an inch, then another. It is a slow, grinding, and unbelievably painful victory. The work becomes a hypnotic, grueling rhythm, a dance of torment. The overseer's chant is the only thing that exists. Heave and pull. Heave and pull. Your mind is erased by the sound. You are no longer a man. You are a single muscle in a great 40-man beast, a human machine designed for a single purpose, to drag a piece of a mountain across the scarred earth. As the block crawls forward, leaving one roller behind, the team of young boys must scramble to pick up the heavy log and run with it to the front, placing it in the block's path just in time. It is a frantic, dangerous dance around the slow-moving monster. The journey of 200 paces takes over an hour. It is an hour of pure, unthinking, physical agony. When the great stone block finally scrapes into its designated place at the foot of the wall, the overseer shouts the final command. Halt! The chant stops. You and the other men release the rope and collapse to the ground, your chests heaving, your bodies completely spent. You are left in a panting, sweating, miserable heap. You look at the massive stone, now sitting where the masons need it. And then you look back at the quarry, where another identical stone lies waiting. Your respite will be measured in minutes. The overseer's shout signals the end of your brief, gasping respite. The great stone block now sits at the foot of the scaffolding, a silent, monstrous testament to the collective agony of your team. Your muscles are trembling. Your hands are raw from the hemp rope, and your body feels hollowed out, utterly spent. But there is no rest. In the economy of the Great Wall, a man who is not actively working is a man who is wasting the Emperor's resources. Before you can even catch your breath, another overseer, this one in charge of building materials, approaches your exhausted group. He carries a short, stout bamboo cane, and he uses it to point, not up the mountain, but to a different section of the sprawling work site. The masons on the eastern tower have stone, he barks, his voice impatient. Now they need the glue. You, all of you, to the mortar pits. The master mason says the last batch was too thin. You will do better. You have just spent an hour in a world of dry, percussive force, of shattering rock and groaning timber. Now you are being sent to a different kind of hell, a wet hell. You turn your aching body away from the clean, hard lines of the quarry and trudge towards the pits. You smell it before you see it. It is a sharp, acrid, chemical smell that stings the back of your throat and makes your eyes water. It is the smell of slaking lime, a scent that speaks of chemical reactions and burned skin. As you get closer, a new soundscape replaces the rhythmic crack of the quarry. It is a world of wet, heavy sounds. The thick, viscous schlop, schlop, schlop of heavy hose being dragged through slurry. The groans of men straining against a different kind of resistance. And the constant, angry hiss of water meeting a thirsty, caustic stone. The mortar pits are a gray, desolate landscape. A series of wide, shallow pits have been dug into the earth, each one as large as the floor of your hut back in your village. They are filled with a thick, bubbling gray sludge. Around the pits are the raw materials of your new trade. Great mounds of coarse sand and river gravel. Dozens of wooden buckets for hauling water. And most importantly, the source of the terrible smell. A great pile of white, chalky chunks of quicklime, still warm from the nearby kiln. where limestone rock has been baked for days to purge it of its spillet. Your first assignment is the most dangerous one, slaking the lime. Under the watchful eye of a senior worker, you and a small team approach the pile of quicklime. Your task is to add water to it, transforming the dry, unstable rock into the stable lime putty that is the foundation of all mortar. The senior worker, a man whose arms are covered in the pale, shiny scars of old chemical burns, gives you a simple, grim warning. Do not let it splash, he says. It is a thirsty stone. It will drink the water from your own flesh if you let it. You take a heavy wooden bucket of water and with extreme care, pour a small amount onto the pile of white rock. The reaction is immediate and violent. The water does not just soak in, it seems to explode. A cloud of thick, white, caustic steam erupts from the pile with a furious, hissing roar. The heat is so intense, you can feel it on your face from 10 feet away. The water boils instantly, and the rocks themselves seem to writhe and crumble, breaking apart as they undergo their violent chemical transformation. You have seen men who have been careless, men with terrible, weeping burns on their legs and faces from a splash of this boiling chemical soup. You handle the bucket with the reverence and terror of a man handling a live serpent. When the lime has been slaked into a thick, hot, bubbling paste, it is shoveled into the great mixing pits. And here, your true work begins. The work is not one of danger or skill. It is one of pure, mind-numbing, muscle-shredding endurance. You are given a tool. It is a simple, heavy hoe with a long, rough-hewn wooden handle and a thick iron head. You take your place at the edge of the great pit, which is now filled with the slaked lime, sand, gravel, and water. The slurry is thick, heavy, and impossibly resistant. Your job is to mix it. You sink the iron head of the hoe into the thick, gray sludge. You plant your feet in the mud, bend your back, and pull. The resistance is immense. It feels like trying to drag a boulder through a swamp. Your first pull moves the hoe less than a foot. Your muscles, already screaming from the morning's work, find new reserves of pain. But you must continue. You pull again, and again, and again. The work has a grim, hypnotic rhythm. Sink, brace, pull, lift. Sink, brace, pull, lift. Your mind goes empty. The world shrinks to the gray, viscous slurry in front of you. The rough, splintery wood of the hoe handle in your raw hands, and the searing ache in your back and shoulders. You are no longer thinking. You are just a machine, a human piston performing a single, repetitive motion that will continue for hours. You look at the men around you. They are all in the same state. Their faces are blank masks of exhaustion, their bodies moving with the slow, rhythmic endurance of oxen tilling a field. You are all cogs in this great, wet, grinding machine. As you work, you notice another team of laborers at a smaller, separate pit. They are mixing a different kind of mortar. You see them adding buckets of a thick, white, glutinous substance to their mix. It is sticky rice porridge. You have heard the masons talk of this. It is the emperor's mortar, a secret recipe that creates a bond so strong and so resistant to water that it is used only for the most critical sections of the wall, the foundations, the gatehouses. The faint, sweet smell of the cooking rice drifts over to your pit, a strange, almost comforting scent in this harsh, chemical wasteland. It is a reminder that even in this place of brutal industry, there are levels of quality, of importance, and you are working on the common, crude, and expendable part of the project. The sun, a weak and distant eye, crawls past its zenith. Hours pass. You do not know how many. Your world is just the pull of the hoe and the burning of your muscles. Finally, the overseer's horn blows, the signal for the midday ration. You release your hoe. It stands upright in the thick mud. You try to straighten your back, and a spasm of poor agony shoots through you. You are covered, head to toe, in a film of gray, sticky mortar. It has dried on your skin, making it feel tight and cracked. You look down at the pit. The slurry is no longer lumpy and separated. It is a perfectly smooth, consistent, thick, gray paste. It is mortar. It is the glue that will hold the Great Wall together for 1,000 years. You have made it, and you feel no pride, only a weariness so profound it feels like a premonition of death. The overseer's horn blows, a merciful, piercing sound that signals the end of the morning's labor. The rhythmic pull of the hose in the mortar pits ceases. Men groan, straightening their aching backs, and the entire worksite seems to sigh in collective, temporary relief. This is the hour of the midday ration. But as you turn to follow the slow, shuffling line of gray, mud-caked men toward the food distribution point, the overseer of the mortar pits plants his bamboo cane in your path. "Not you," he says, his voice flat. He points with the cane up the steep flank of the wall, toward the precarious bamboo scaffolding where the skilled masons work. Master Lu on the 3rd tier. His carrier was clumsy this morning. You're the replacement. Now go. You can eat when he does. The word "was" hangs in the air, cold and final. You know what it means. The previous carrier made a mistake. A slip on the scaffolding, a dropped tool, and has been removed. Whether he was merely beaten and sent to the quarry, or fell to his death, is a detail no one will ever clarify. Such is the nature of this place. You are a resource, and you have been reallocated. You are being promoted from the muck of the pits to the heights of the wall itself. It is not an honor. It is a new and more terrifying form of servitude. You bow your head in silent obedience and begin the long, exhausting climb up the network of ramps and ladders that lead to the 3rd tier of construction. You find him there, a small, wiry man standing on a wide platform of bamboo lashed together with rope, seemingly oblivious to the 100-foot drop just inches from his feet. This is Master Liu. He is not a large man, but his hands and forearms are thick with muscle, roped and corded from a lifetime of shaping stone. His face is a roadmap of deep wrinkles from years of squinting in the sun and wind, and his eyes, when they briefly flick towards you, are as sharp and intelligent as a hawk's. He says nothing. He simply points a calloused finger at a heavy wooden bucket filled with the mortar you just spent your morning mixing. You understand. Your new life has begun. Your job, you quickly learn, is to be his shadow. You are his hands and his feet, an extension of his will, a silent and obedient tool. For the next hour, he does not speak a single word to you. He communicates entirely through a series of curt, efficient gestures. A flick of the fingers means he requires his small, fine-toothed chisel. A sharp tap on the stone block before him means he needs you to hold it steady. A jerk of his chin towards the water skin means he is thirsty. You learn this silent language with the frantic attention of a man who knows that a single misunderstanding, a single moment of hesitation, could earn you a blow, or worse, a fatal stumble on this precarious perch. The work is a strange combination of intense physical strain and absolute focused stillness. Your primary task is to hold the smaller facing stones in place while he works. You heft a heavy, rough-edged block of granite into position, your arms straining, your muscles screaming, and then you must hold it. Absolutely, perfectly still. Master Lu works with a patient, infuriating precision. He will study the stone, tap it, step back, study it again, and only then will he begin to work. He uses a small mallet and a sharp chisel, his movements not forceful, but a series of quick, light, incredibly precise taps. Tink, tink, tink. The sound is a sharp counterpoint to the dull roar of the wind around you. As he works, you are locked in a battle with your own body. The stone is heavy. Your arms begin to tremble with the strain. Sweat drips into your eyes. But you cannot move. You cannot flinch. A single tremor from you could cause his chisel to slip, ruining the perfect edge he is trying to create. You focus on a point on the distant mountain. You bite down on the inside of your cheek. You do anything you can to turn your own living body into a senseless, motionless clamp. In these long, agonizing moments of forced stillness, you begin to truly see his work. You are no longer just a laborer, a mindless beast of burden. You are a witness to a form of magic. You watch him study a rough, awkward stone, turning it over and over in his hands, his eyes seeing a hidden language of grain and fracture that is invisible to you. You watch him take his hammer and, with a single, perfectly judged blow, split the stone along a line you did not even know was there, revealing two perfectly flat, clean surfaces. He works with an ancient and profound understanding of his material. He is not just breaking the stone, he is conversing with it. He is an artist, and in his presence, you feel your own status as an unskilled, conscripted peasant with a new and sharper clarity. He is a free man, a respected member of a powerful guild, a man whose skills are so rare and so vital that he is likely paid a handsome wage and given better food and lodging than anyone in the camp. You are disposable. He is indispensable. He never speaks to you, never acknowledges you as anything more than a piece of living equipment. In his world, you are no different from the wooden mallet he uses or the basket that holds his tools. After what feels like a lifetime, he finishes shaping a key block. He gestures for you to bring the mortar. You scramble to obey, scooping the thick gray paste onto a wooden board and holding it for him. He takes a trowel and, with a few swift, efficient movements, lays a perfect bed of mortar on the wall. Then, together, you lift the heavy, shaped stone, and with him guiding it, you lower it into place. It fits perfectly, its edges flush with the stones beside it. Master Liu steps back, his head cocked, and studies his work with a critical eye. He gives a small, almost imperceptible grunt of satisfaction. He has added one more piece to the great puzzle. He has built a few more inches of the Emperor's Great Wall. He completely ignores you. The silent, exhausted shadow who held the stone, fetched the tools, and whose arms are still trembling with the effort. You stand beside him, a forgotten instrument, and you look at the small section of perfectly fitted stone. And for the first time, you feel a strange, unwilling flicker of awe. You are no longer just breaking a mountain. You are helping to build a new one. The afternoon wears on. You fall into the rhythm of your new role, a rhythm dictated by the needs of Master Liu. Your world shrinks to the small, precarious bamboo platform, the block of stone before you, and the silent, demanding gestures of the master mason. It is a world of intense, focused labor. You fetch the mortar, your arms burning from the weight of the heavy wooden bucket. You haul skins of water up the rickety ladders. You hold the heavy, rough-hewn stones in place. Your body locked in a silent scream of exertion, while Master Liu performs his delicate, percussive magic with his hammer and chisel. You learn to read his needs before he signals them. You see the way he eyes a particular edge of the stone, and you have the small, fine-toothed chisel ready for him. You see him step back to check his plumb line, and you have the mortar board ready for the next layer. You become an extension of his own hands, a silent and efficient tool. There is a strange, almost intimate connection in this shared, wordless labor. He never speaks to you, never acknowledges you as anything more than a function, but in the smooth efficiency of your work together, there is a kind of professional understanding. The routine is hypnotic. The constant tink, tink, tink of the chisel, the roar of the wind, the distant shouts of the other work crews. It all fades into a single, monotonous drone. Your mind grows numb to the danger of the height, to the ache in your muscles. You are a cog in a great, grinding machine, and you have found your place in its rhythm. And then a sound shatters the world. It is not a sound you have heard before. It is not the familiar crack of splitting stone or the groan of straining wood. It is a high-pitched, sharp, and sickening snap. The sound of a thick hemp rope, stretched beyond its breaking point, finally giving way. For a single drawn-out heartbeat, the entire work site falls silent. The rhythmic chipping of 1,000 chisels ceases. The shouts of the overseers die in their throats. Every man freezes, his head turning toward the source of the sound, the massive wooden winch on the tier below, where a hauling team has been slowly, painstakingly lifting a colossal foundation stone up the face of the wall. You are high above them, with a clear, horrifying God's eye view of the disaster. You see the great rope, as thick as your leg, now whipping through the air like a headless snake. You see the massive stone block, weighing thousands of pounds, suddenly released from its primary support. It does not simply fall. It swings, a monstrous pendulum of granite, and smashes into the side of the wall with a sound like thunder. A shower of stone fragments explodes outwards, but the stone's wild, uncontrolled momentum carries it sideways, directly into the delicate, spider-like structure of the bamboo scaffolding. The impact is absolute. The thick bamboo poles, which seemed so strong just moments before, splinter and snap like dry twigs. The lashing ropes tear apart. An entire section of the scaffolding, the section where half of the hauling crew was stationed, simply disintegrates. You see it happen in a slow, dreamlike horror. You see the brief, terrified, upturned faces of the men. You see their mouths open in a shout that is lost in the sudden roar of collapsing bamboo and stone. You see bodies, small and fragile as broken dolls, tumbling through the air, intertwined with the splintered wreckage of their platform. They fall 100 feet to the rock-strewn ground below. The silence is broken by a new wave of sound, shouts of alarm, the screams of the men who were spared, now clinging desperately to the remaining, swaying sections of the scaffolding. And then the harsh, angry barking of the overseers, their voices not filled with panic, but with a furious urgency to regain control of their broken machine. You are frozen, your hand gripping a bamboo pole so tightly your knuckles are white. A wave of nausea and dizzying vertigo washes over you. You look at the flimsy platform beneath your own feet, at the simple rope lashings, and you are filled with a primal, electric fear. The only thing separating you from the fate of those men below is a few feet of swaying bamboo and the fickle whims of dumb luck. Master Lu, beside you, has not moved. He watched the entire event with a calm, unreadable expression, his face as impassive as the stone he works. He shows no fear, no pity. He simply observes. Below, the chaos is being managed with a brutal efficiency. The overseers are not shouting for medics. They are shouting for the cleaners. A special team of laborers, their faces grim and impassive, emerges carrying woven grass mats. Their job is not to render aid, but to clear the worksite. You watch as they methodically collect the broken bodies. There is no ceremony, no reverence. The dead are treated like shattered tools, like broken equipment that must be removed so the work can continue. The injured, if there are any, are carried away with the same detached efficiency. You know they will not be taken to a healer, but to a separate hut where they will either recover on their own or die. The wall does not care for the wounded. Within 15 minutes, it is over. The bodies are gone. The ground is being cleared of the debris. The head overseer is already inspecting the damage to the winch and the wall itself. His primary concern, the logistical problem of the delay. A new team of haulers is being assembled from the ranks of the quarrymen. The machine is resetting itself. The overseer's horn blows again, a sharp, impatient blast. It is the signal to return to work. You are still trembling, your mind replaying the image of the falling men. But then you feel a sharp tap on your arm. It is Master Lu. He has turned his back on the scene below. He looks at the stone block he was working on, then looks at you, and then gestures with his chin toward the bucket of mortar. His meaning is clear. The interruption is over. Get back to work. You stare at him for a second, at his calm, impassive face, and you understand. In this world, there is no time for fear or grief. There is only the wall. You force your trembling hands to obey. You pick up the mortar board, and, with legs that feel unsteady, you walk to his side. He takes a trowel of mortar and begins to spread it. You hear the familiar tink, tink, tink of his chisel as he makes a fine adjustment. The sound is the same, but the world has changed. It is now layered over a new, terrible silence, the silence of the men who are gone. You have just been given the starkest lesson of all. The wall is eternal, but the men who build it are as disposable as the dust under your feet. The work resumes after the horror of the accident, but the rhythm is different. The air is thick with a new, unspoken tension. The shouts of the overseers are sharper, more brittle. The rhythmic tink, tink, tink of the mason's chisels seems to have a more frantic, nervous energy. Every man on the wall is now keenly aware of the thin, fraying rope that separates his own life from a sudden, brutal death. You feel it in the way you move on the scaffolding. Your hands gripping the bamboo poles more tightly, your feet testing each step with a new, deliberate caution. You are a ghost, working on the edge of the void, and you have just been reminded of how easy it is to fall. You continue your duties as Master Liu's shadow. You hold the stones, you fetch the mortar, you pass in his tools. He remains a silent, focused island of pure competence in the sea of chaos. He did not speak of the accident, did not even seem to acknowledge it beyond a brief pause in his work. His focus is absolute. It is on the stone, on the line, on the slow, perfect extension of the Emperor's will. His single-mindedness is both terrifying and, in a strange way, calming. It is an anchor in the storm of your own fear. The sun, a weak, distant disk in the hazy gray sky, crawls to its zenith. This is the highest it will climb, the point of its greatest strength, yet its light brings no warmth, only a brighter, harsher glare that illuminates the swirling dust and the grim faces of the workers. Then another horn blows. It is not the sharp, angry blast of the morning muster, but a shorter, less aggressive sound. It is the call for the midday ration. A collective sigh seems to pass through the worksite. Work does not stop, but it pauses in shifts. The overseer on your section gives a curt nod. It is your turn. Master Lu sets down his hammer, his movements precise and unhurried, and moves to a sheltered spot on the platform. You have been granted a brief respite. There is no great hall here, no trestle tables. The dining room is the worksite itself. You and the other laborers, the haulers, the rubble clearers, the mortar mixers, find what shelter you can. You join a small group of men, huddled on the lee side of the unfinished wall, their backs pressed against the cold, rough stone, seeking refuge from the relentless, biting wind that sweeps across the mountain ridge. The masons and other skilled artisans remain on their platforms, their higher status affording them the small privilege of not having to descend. The atmosphere is not one of cheerful camaraderie. It is one of silent animal exhaustion. The men slump onto the rubble-strewn ground, their bodies curling in on themselves, their faces blank masks of dirt and weariness. There is no conversation. To speak is to expend precious energy, and no man here has any to spare. The food is brought to you. It is not a feast. It is a calculated distribution of fuel, designed with the cold precision of an imperial decree. Two older men, their bodies too broken for heavy labor, move along the line of workers. One carries a large, steaming wooden bucket of cooked grain. The other carries a basket of hard, dark bread. You hold out your rough wooden bowl, the one you carry tucked into your belt at all times. The first man uses a wooden ladle to slop a single, heavy scoop of cooked grain into it. It is not the fine, white rice of the South. It is coarse, brown millet, boiled to a thick, glutinous paste. It is heavy, bland, and meant to fill the stomach for as long as possible. The second man follows, tossing a small, dense brick of dark bread into your bowl. It is hard enough to break a tooth on. Finally, a boy comes by with a bucket of water and a single, shared ladle, from which you are allowed 2 gulps of brackish, lukewarm water that tastes of wood and mountain grit. This is your midday ration. You retreat to your spot against the wall and begin to eat. You use your grimy, calloused fingers, the fine stone dust permanently ingrained in the lines of your skin. The millet is a tasteless, starchy mass, but it is warm, and for that you are grateful. You break off a piece of the hard bread and use it to scoop up the grain. You chew slowly, mechanically. The taste of stone dust from your own hands mingles with the blandness of the food. It is the taste of the wall itself. You are consuming your prison. The shadow of the morning's accident hangs heavy over the silent meal. The men are quieter than usual. You see their eyes occasionally flick upwards, towards the newly repaired section of scaffolding, then quickly look away. The men from that hauling team are not here. Their place in the line has been taken by others. Their bowls have been redistributed. Their absence is a silent, terrifying testament to the fact that the great machine has already absorbed their loss and moved on. They are a ghost story, a cautionary tale whispered in the huts at night. You force yourself to swallow the last of the tasteless grain. You think, for a dangerous moment, of the food of your past life. You remember the simple, savory flavor of the pork and cabbage stew your wife would make. You remember the taste of a fresh, sweet plum, plucked from the tree in your own small yard. The memory is so sharp, so painful, it feels like a physical wound. You quickly push it away. To remember such things here is a form of madness. It is a poison that will corrode your will to survive. Here, there is only the wall. There is only the next task. The food is not for pleasure. It is fuel for the muscles. It is the energy required to lift the next stone, to mix the next batch of mortar. That is its only purpose. The respite lasts no more than 20 minutes. The horn blows again, a sharp, impatient blast. The break is over. Around you, men groan, their bodies stiffening at the thought of returning to the labor. Slowly, painfully, they rise to their feet. You push yourself up, your back a single screaming ache. You leave your empty bowl on the ground, ready to be collected. You turn and look up at the scaffolding. Master Liu is already standing there, waiting, his hand resting on a half-finished stone, his hawk-like eyes fixed upon you. The brief pause has only served to highlight the endless, grinding, and inescapable reality of your life on the Great Wall. The midday ration sits in your stomach like a cold, heavy stone. There is no feeling of rest, no sense of renewed energy. The brief pause has only allowed the deep, aching weariness in your muscles to settle in. You return to your post at Master Lu's side, your mind and body already resigned to an afternoon of labor, identical to the morning's. You are his shadow, his tool bearer, his stone holder. But the wall has other needs. An overseer, his face a mask of impatience, climbs onto your platform. He does not speak to you, but to the master mason. Master Lu, he says, his voice respectful but firm. The team on the northern battlement needs mortar. The weather may turn, and they must set the capstones before dusk. Master Lu gives a curt, indifferent nod, his eyes never leaving the stone he is meticulously shaping. The overseer turns his gaze to you. His expression changes. The respect vanishes, replaced by simple, utilitarian command. You, he barks, your hands are strong enough. You will carry mortar. To the top. Do not be slow. Your new assignment is delivered. You are being promoted again, from the relative stability of the third tier to the highest, most exposed, and most dangerous part of the construction site. You are going to the top of the wall. Your new job is brutally simple. At the base of the scaffolding, younger boys fill heavy wooden buckets with the thick, gray mortar you spent your morning mixing. Your task is to haul those buckets, one by one, up the precarious network of ladders and platforms to the masons working on the crenellations at the very summit. You take the first bucket. The rope handle is rough and cuts into your already raw hands. The bucket is heavy, an awkward, sloshing weight that throws you off balance. You approach the scaffolding. It is a chaotic, terrifying structure. A spider's web of thick bamboo poles, lashed together with what looks like nothing more than coarse, fraying rope. It creaks and groans under the weight of the men, a living, breathing thing that seems to be in a constant state of near collapse. The climb begins. This is not a staircase. It is a series of crude, steep ladders, also made of bamboo, their rungs often slick with spilled mortar or ice. You must use one hand to hold on to the vertical poles of the scaffolding, and the other to carry the heavy, swaying bucket. Every step is a calculation of balance and risk. Your world narrows to the few feet of bamboo around you. Your focus must be absolute. As you climb higher, the sounds of the worksite below, the chipping of chisels, the shouts of men, begin to fade, replaced by a new, more terrifying sound, the voice of the wind. Down in the quarry, it was a distant howl. Here, it is a physical, violent presence. It rushes around the tower, a great, invisible river of force that pushes and pulls at you, threatening to tear you from your fragile perch. The entire scaffolding sways with every gust, the bamboo creaking, the rope lashings groaning in protest. You flatten your body against the ladders, your knuckles white as you grip the poles, and you wait for the gust to pass before continuing your ascent. You do not look down. That is the first rule of the high scaffolding, a rule learned through the screams of those who broke it. But you can feel the emptiness beneath you, the vast 100-foot drop to the rubble-strewn ground. The fear is a constant, metallic taste in the back of your throat. After what feels like an eternity of climbing, you reach the top. You haul yourself onto the final platform, your chest heaving, your arms and legs trembling with the strain. And the world opens up before you. The view is terrifying in its sheer, inhuman scale. The work camp below is a collection of tiny, insignificant toys. The men still working on the lower levels are ants, crawling over their great project. For the first time, you can see the wall not as a chaotic construction site, but as the Emperor sees it. You see the great stone dragon in its entirety, a jagged gray spine snaking over the crests of the mountains, for miles and miles in either direction, disappearing into the hazy, wintry distance. It is an act of impossible will, a scar carved across the face of the world by a single man's ambition. It is awesome and terrible, a sight that makes you feel profoundly and utterly insignificant. The wind up here is a monster. There is no shelter. It tears at your thin clothes, its icy teeth biting at any exposed skin. It screams in your ears, a constant, deafening roar that makes it impossible to think. A mason, his face wrapped in cloth to protect it from the wind, turns and sees you with your bucket. He gives a sharp, impatient gesture. You stumble across the swaying platform and deliver the mortar. Your task is done, but there is no rest. You must immediately begin the treacherous journey back down to get another bucket. The work is an endless, vertical loop of misery. Down the swaying, creaking ladders to the bottom. Full the heavy bucket until your shoulders scream at the thought of lifting it. Then, the slow, terrifying climb back up into the heart of the wind. In this new role, your mind enters a different state. The fear of falling is so constant, so immediate, that it erases all other thought. You cannot think of your family. You cannot think of the injustice of your situation. To do so would be to lose the absolute focus required to survive. Your entire consciousness narrows to the feel of the rough bamboo in your hand, the strain of the bucket handle cutting into your fingers, the precise placement of your next footstep on a slippery, narrow rung. Late in the afternoon, as you are clinging to a ladder halfway up the wall, a particularly strong gust of wind hits the scaffolding. The entire structure groans, sways violently outwards, and for a terrifying second, you feel yourself being pulled away from the wall, out over the empty space. You freeze, your body flattened against the bamboo, your eyes squeezed shut, your heart a frantic drum against your ribs. You are suspended between the sky and the earth, a tiny, fragile human being on a flimsy web of sticks, carrying mud to build a mountain for an emperor you will never see. In that single terrifying moment, the precariousness of your entire existence is laid bare. You are nothing, and the wall is everything. The gust of wind subsides. The great bamboo scaffold gives a final groaning shudder and settles back into a state of precarious stability. Your heart, which had seized in your chest, begins to beat again, a frantic, painful drumming against your ribs. You do not allow yourself the luxury of relief. You do not look down. You force your white-knuckled grip to relax slightly on the bamboo pole. Take a single ragged breath and continue your climb. Fear is a constant companion on the high wall, and you have learned to treat it as such. A tiresome guest who will never leave, but one whom you must never allow to take charge. You haul yourself onto the highest platform, the summit of the unfinished wall. You set the heavy bucket of mortar down with a grunt, your shoulder screaming in protest. The masons here, a team of 3 men working on the crenellations that will one day crown this section of the wall, tone to you with impatient expressions. One of them, a man with a hard, weathered face and hands as tough as leather, gestures curtly at the bucket. Your delivery has been made. You expect to be sent immediately back down for another load, another terrifying ascent into the wind. But the overseer who is supervising this top-tier work has other plans. You, he shouts over the wind, pointing at you. Stay. Master Wei needs another pair of hands, strong ones, to hold, not to think. Do exactly as he says. And so, your role shifts once more. You are no longer a hauler. For the next few hours, you are to be the direct assistant to a master stonemason. You are a shadow, a brace, a living tool. Master Wei is the man who gestured for the mortar. He is the oldest of the 3 masons on the platform, and clearly the one in charge. He ignores you completely for a time, his entire being focused on the task at hand. His world is one of precision and deliberation, a stark contrast to the brute force and chaos of the quarry and the hauling grounds. Here, on this high, windswept perch, is where the brute strength of the empire is transformed into its eternal, ordered form. You watch, and you begin to understand. A large, roughly hewn block of granite has been lifted to the platform by a winch. It is your next task. But Master Wei does not simply move it into place. He approaches it as a scholar would approach a difficult text. He walks around it, his sharp eyes scanning every surface. He runs his calloused fingers along its edges, feeling for its texture, for its hidden weaknesses and strengths. He seems to be listening to the stone, letting it tell him how it wishes to be shaped. After a long moment of silent communion, he begins to work. He uses a series of small, specialized tools you have never seen up close before. Fine-toothed chisels, heavy mallets of wood and iron, and a simple but sacred-looking plumb line, a lead weight on a string. His movements are a revelation. In the quarry, the hammers were instruments of pure shattering violence. Here, the hammer is an instrument of persuasion. Master Wei does not strike the stone with brute force. He taps. A series of quick, light, incredibly precise blows on the head of his chisel. Tink, 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 tink. Each tap is a question he is asking the stone. With each series of taps, a small, perfect sliver of granite flakes away. He is not breaking the rock. He is coaxing it into a new shape. Finally, he is satisfied. He turns to you and points at the now perfectly shaped block, and then to a gap in the top layer of the wall. Your job begins. You and the two other mason's assistants heave the heavy stone into position. Master Wei directs you with small hand gestures, having you shift it a fraction of an inch to the left, then back again, until it is perfectly aligned. Mortar, he says, the first word he has spoken. His voice is a low rasp. You scramble to obey. Scooping a thick, even bed of the gray paste onto the lower course of stones. Then, with great care, the block is lowered into place. It settles with a wet, sucking sound, the mortar squelching out from the joints. But the work is not done. Now comes the true magic. Master Wei takes up a heavy wooden mallet and begins to tap the stone. Gently at first, then with more force. Thump, thump, thud, thump. He is seeding the stone, driving out any air pockets from the mortar beneath, making it one with the stones below. He places his hand on the top of the block, his eyes closed, feeling the vibration, listening to the sound of the mallet blow. He is listening to the wall. He checks it with his plumb line, ensuring it is perfectly vertical. He checks it with his wooden level. He makes a tiny adjustment with another series of taps. The process is meticulous, painstaking, and it feels like a sacred rite. Your role in this rite is humble. You hold the plumb line steady against the wind. You wipe away the excess mortar from the joints with a damp rag. You stand by, silent and ready, a shadow anticipating the artist's next need. And as you stand there, high on the wall, the wold spread out below you, a strange feeling begins to stir in your chest. It is a feeling you have not had since you were taken from your farm. It is a flicker of awe. You are no longer just a beast of burden, hauling rock and mixing mud. You are a witness to creation. You see the raw, chaotic material of the mountain being transformed through human skill and relentless effort into something ordered, permanent, and immense. You look along the line of the wall as it marches across the horizon, a great stone serpent pinning the very earth down. You are a part of this. Your sweat, your aching muscles, your misery, they are all being mixed into the mortar of this eternal thing. A feeling is quickly followed by a wave of bitter resentment. This is not your creation. This is the Emperor's creation. You are not building this out of civic pride or religious devotion. You are building it because you are a slave, a prisoner of a war you never fought, your life forfeit to the ambition of a man you will never see. This monument, which will stand for 10,000 years, is being built upon the foundation of your stolen life and the lives of a million men just like you. Master Wee finishes with the cornerstone. He steps back, admiring the perfect clean line it makes against the gray sky. He and the other two masons murmur in quiet satisfaction. One of them pulls out a small clay flask, and they share a sip of wine, a privilege of their rank. They do not offer you any. They do not look at you at all. You are invisible to them again. From far below, the overseer's horn blows. A team on a lower level needs more mortar. Your brief time as a witness to creation is over. It is time to be a mule again. The moment of strange, conflicted awe on the high platform is fleeting. An overseer's shout from a lower tier sends you scrambling back down the rickety bamboo ladders. Your brief tenure as a mason's assistant over. You are returned to the great, anonymous pool of unskilled labor. Your body once again a simple machine to be directed where the need is greatest. For the rest of the long afternoon, you are a beast of burden, part of a human chain, passing heavy baskets of rubble from hand to hand, away from the base of the wall to clear the ground for the next layer of foundation stones. The work is mindless, repetitive, and agonizing. Your world shrinks to the weight of the basket, the strain in your shoulders, and the rough, calloused hands of the man next to you. The afternoon wears on, a slow, grinding torture, measured not in hours, but in the shifting of the weak winter sun across the gray sky. As the sun begins its descent, a palpable change comes over the worksite. The weak, watery light turns a soft, melancholy gold, then a bruised, dirty orange. It is a beautiful, almost painterly light, and its beauty is a cruel mockery. It casts long, distorted shadows from the scaffolding and the unfinished towers, making the entire site look like a landscape of broken, skeletal giants. This beautiful light brings with it a renewed viciousness from the cold. As the sun's pathetic influence wanes, the temperature drops immediately and dramatically. The biting wind, which has been your constant companion all day, seems to find new teeth. It cuts through your thin, sweat-dampened tunic with a chilling efficiency, and the deep ache in your bones returns with a vengeance. The energy of the worksite changes, too. The frantic, percussive rhythm of the morning has slowed to a weary, stumbling beat. The chipping of the chisels is less frequent, the blows of the hammers less certain. The shouts of the overseers are hoarse, their anger worn down by the long day into a raw, impatient rasp. You look at the men around you. Their faces, already gaunt, seem to have hollowed out even further. Their movements are slow, mechanical. The movements of men running on the last foul dregs of their physical and spiritual reserves. Every man on this mountain, from the lowest rubble hauler to the highest master mason, is united by a single, all-consuming thought: the evening horn. The final hour of the workday is the longest. Time itself seems to thicken, to become a viscous fluid that you must wade through. Every basket of rubble feels heavier than the last. Every step is an agony. The mountain seems to push back against you, trying to hold you here forever. The anticipation is a physical thing, a tight, painful knot in your stomach. You find yourself listening, not with your ears, but with your entire body, waiting for the sound that will signal your release. You listen so intently that you can hear the blood pounding in your ears, a frantic rhythm against the slow, steady beat of a distant hammer. The world is a torment of labor and waiting, and then it comes. It is not a sharp, angry blast like the morning muster horn. It is a deep, low, and resonant sound, a single long note blown from a great ox horn in the main watchtower of the camp far below. The sound travels up the mountainside, a mournful, beautiful, and holy thing. It echoes off the distant peaks, a sound so profound it seems to make the very air vibrate. It is the sound of release. It is the sound of salvation. The effect is instantaneous and absolute. The moment the horn's note reaches you, the entire great grinding machine of the wall shudders to a halt. A hammer is stopped in mid-swing. A man hauling a rope lets it go slack. You, yourself, drop the heavy basket you are holding, its contents spilling across the frozen ground with a loud clatter. You do not care. For a single, blessed moment, there is silence. The chipping stops. The shouting stops. The chanting of the hauling teams stops. The only sound is the ever-present voice of the wind, a collective, unified sigh. The sound of 1,000 weary men exhaling at once seems to rise from the worksite. It is the sound of survival, but the reprieve is only from labor, not from discipline. The overseers, their faces still grim, begin to bark new orders. Tools, gather the tools. The emperor does not gift you his iron. Stack them neatly. Ropes, coil them. Any toy missing in the morning will be paid for from your own hides. The work of shutting down the site begins. It is a slow, exhausted process. Men who could barely stand a moment ago now move with a new, if weary, purpose. You help gather the scattered chisels and hammerheads. Your fingers so numb with cold you can barely grasp them. You see Master Liu, high on his platform, carefully wrapping his precious, specialized chisels in a roll of oilcloth, his movements as precise and deliberate as ever. The work is over. But the tools are property of the state and must be respected. When the tools are gathered and the site is secured, you and the thousands of other men stand for a moment, no longer laborers, but simply a vast, ragged army of the exhausted. You are caked in dust and dirt. Your clothes are stiff with sweat and grime, and your bodies are a landscape of pure, unadulterated ache. You turn your back on the great stone dragon, leaving it to the wind and the coming night. You face the long, treacherous path that leads down the mountain. Back to the fleeting, miserable sanctuary of the camp. The overseer's horn has freed you from the tyranny of the day's work, but only to deliver you into the cold, dark uncertainty of the night. The relief you feel is immense, but it is deeply and profoundly temporary. The cycle is complete, and you know, with a bone-deep weariness, that you will do it all again tomorrow. The overseer's horn has sounded its note of release, a beautiful, mournful sound that has freed you from your labor. But it has not freed you from the mountain. Your final duty of the day is a mandatory one. You must get yourself back down to the camp alive. What remains of your energy, the last dregs of your will, must now be spent on this last, treacherous journey. You turn your back on the great stone dragon, leaving it to the silence and the stars, enjoying the great, slow, shuffling exodus of men. It is not an orderly march. It is a river of pure human exhaustion, 1,000 weary bodies flowing towards the narrow, winding paths that lead down the mountainside. The press of the crowd is a dangerous thing in itself. Men jostle and stumble, their movements clumsy with fatigue. The man in front of you slips on a patch of loose gravel, and you have to catch yourself on the shoulder of the man beside you to keep from falling. There are no apologies. There are no curses. There is only a collective, silent, and desperate desire to be off this mountain. You begin the descent. The journey down is a different kind of agony from the climb. The ascent was a fiery battle against gravity, a screaming protest of the muscles. The descent is a slow, grinding war against control. Your leg muscles, which burned with the effort of pushing you up the mountain, are now trembling and weak, asked to perform the difficult, jarring work of breaking your descent with every step. Your knees feel as though they are filled with hot sand, and a sharp, stabbing pain shoots through them each time you put your weight down. The path is the same treacherous track you climbed this morning, but it is made infinitely more dangerous by two new enemies: exhaustion and darkness. The sun has now completely vanished behind the high western peaks. The world is plunged into a deep purple twilight, a deceptive and dangerous gloom. The details of the path dissolve into a treacherous landscape of indistinct shadows. That dark patch ahead, is it a patch of soft mud or a sheet of black ice waiting to send you skittering over the edge? That deeper shadow, is it a solid, stable rock or a deep hole waiting to snap your ankle? Every footstep is a gamble. You must trust your memory of the path, a memory blurred by a day of mind-numbing labor. Your body, pushed to its absolute limit, betrays you. Your fine motor control is gone. Your feet feel like clumsy blocks of wood at the ends of your legs. You try to place your foot on a solid-looking rock, but your exhausted muscles don't respond with the required precision, and your foot lands half on, half off, sending a shower of loose pebbles clattering down the mountainside into the darkness below. The sound is startlingly loud in the quieting air. The man behind you grunts in annoyance. You have just made his path even more dangerous. As you descend, you catch glimpses of the great wall through the skeletal trees. It looks different now in the twilight. It is no longer a chaotic, noisy worksite. It is a silent, hulking silhouette against the last of the sky's light. It looks ancient, alien, a thing that does not belong in the natural world. It looks like the vast, fossilized spine of some long-dead, world-devouring dragon. It is hard to believe that your own hands spent the day adding to its mass. You feel a profound sense of detachment from it, as if it were a nightmare you are only now beginning to wake from. The journey down is a slow, painful process of falling and catching yourself. You use your hands to brace against the rock face beside you, the sharp stones scraping your already raw palms. The basket straps have left deep, bruised furrows in your shoulders that ache with a deep, pulsing rhythm. Your back is a single, solid knot of pure agony. Your mind is a blank slate. The flicker of awe you felt while watching the Masons is long gone. The bitter resentment has been burned away by sheer physical exertion. All that remains is a single, primal, animalistic desire that consumes your entire being, the desire for the camp. You can see it far below, a small cluster of flickering orange campfires. It is not a home. It is a place of cold, hunger, and misery. But it is on flat ground, and it is your destination. The thought of it, the promise of simply being able to stand on level earth and stop this jarring, painful descent, is the only thing that keeps you moving. The final few hundred paces are the worst. Your body is completely spent. You are operating on nothing but the memory of strength. You stumble, your ankle twisting painfully. You catch yourself before you fall completely, your hands slapping against the frozen mud of the path. You stay there for a moment, on all fours, your head hanging, your breath coming in great shuddering gasps. You want to just lie there. You want to let the cold take you. It would be so easy. But then you hear the sounds of the camp drifting up to you. The distant sound of men shouting, the crackle of the fires. It is the sound of life, however miserable. You push yourself back up, your body a symphony of protest, and you force yourself to take the last few steps. You finally stumble off the end of the path and onto the flat, muddy ground of the camp clearing. The journey is over. The relief is so absolute, so overwhelming, that your legs buckle beneath you. You collapse onto the frozen earth, not even caring about the cold. You have survived. You have survived the mountain. You have survived the quarry, the scaffolding, and the final, treacherous descent. You lie there, a broken and exhausted man, and you look back up at the great, dark mass of the mountain, where the wall is now a barely visible line against the first stars. You are safe, for now. But the night, with its own unique and terrible collection of miseries, has only just begun. You lie on the frozen, muddy ground at the foot of the mountain, a broken piece of the great human river that has just poured down from the worksite. For a long, blissful moment, you do not move. The relief of being on level earth, the cessation of the jarring, painful descent, is so profound it is a form of ecstasy. The world is reduced to the simple, glorious fact that you are no longer climbing or descending. You are still, but this peace is fleeting. The cold of the ground is a patient enemy, and it immediately begins its work, seeping through your thin tunic. A deep, shuddering tremor racks your body. You must get up. You must find a fire. You push yourself to your feet, your body a chorus of screaming aches, and you join the slow, stumbling procession of men heading into the heart of the camp. The camp is not a village. A village is a place of homes, of families, of life. The camp is a temporary, brutal wound on the landscape, a place of pure, functional misery. It is a collection of long, low huts made of rough-hewn logs and packed earth, arranged in crude rows around a series of large, roaring bonfires. The fires are the hearts of this place, and the men are like moths, drawn to their dangerous, smoky light. The atmosphere is a chaotic assault on the senses. The air is thick with the acrid smoke from a dozen massive fires burning green wood, a smoke that stings the eyes and coats the back of the throat with a bitter film. Beneath the smoke is the smell of the evening meal, the same watery millet gruel from the morning, and the foul, ever-present stench of the overflowing latrine trenches that lie just beyond the camp's edge. The industrial noise of the wall has been replaced by the sounds of 1,000 exhausted men. It is a low, continuous murmur of 100 different dialects, punctuated by the sharp, angry shout of an argument, the hollow, racking cough of a sick man, and the crackle and pop of the great fires. You join one of the long, silent lines that has formed before the cooking cauldrons. There is no conversation here. There is only the grim, silent patience of hungry animals waiting to be fed. You hold out your wooden bowl, receive your scoop of gray, glutinous paste, and find a place near one of the great bonfires. You sit on a cold, damp log, your back to the fire. To face it is to scorch your face while your back freezes. To turn your back is to warm your aching spine while your hands and food grow cold. This is the constant, frustrating negotiation of a life without true warmth. You eat your gruel with your fingers, your movements slow and mechanical. It has no taste, but it is hot, and the heat that spreads through your stomach is a small, precious victory against the cold that has settled deep in your bones. As you eat, you observe the life of the camp. This is the only time you have for anything other than pure labor. You see the social world of this miserable place take shape in the firelight. In one corner, a tense, silent group of men are gambling, using marked pebbles as dice, the stakes not money, but their next day's meager ration of bread. You see men from the same village, like your own small group from Willow Grove, huddled together. They speak in low tones. In the familiar dialect of home, sharing what little news they have, or more often, just sitting in a shared, silent understanding of their collective misery. This is the only form of community that exists here. Small, fragile islands of shared history, in a vast, hostile ocean of strangers. But mostly, you see isolation. You are surrounded by 1,000 men, yet you are profoundly alone. No one trusts a man from another village. A stolen blanket, a pilfered ration, these are common crimes, and the only justice is the swift, brutal punishment of a beating. You watch your own bow. You guard your own space. You are a herd of animals, forced into a single pen, but each one is alone in its own struggle for survival. After the meal, the grim ritual of bodily maintenance begins. You watch a man take a crude bone needle and some flaxen thread and begin to stitch a long, weeping gash on his own forearm, his face a mask of stoic pain. You see another man examining his straw sandals, which are falling apart, and trying to bind them together with a piece of vine. You tend to your own wounds. Your hands are a mess of blisters and raw, scraped skin. You do what you can, washing them with a handful of snow, which is cleaner than the camp's water, and wrapping a strip of cloth torn from the hem of your tunic around the worst of the blisters. There are no healers here. There is only the hope that a wound does not fester, for you know that a festering wound means a fever, and a fever means an end. A night is when the thoughts you have held at bay all day with the shield of hard labor come flooding in. The flickering light of the bonfire reminds you of the gentle glow of the hearth in your own small hut. The low murmur of the men's voices makes you ache with a physical pain for the sound of your wife's laughter, for the sound of your son's breathing as he sleeps. The homesickness is a hollow, aching void in the center of your chest. You wonder if they are still alive. You wonder if they have enough to eat. You wonder if they even remember your face. A horn blows, the final signal of the night. It is the order to return to your huts. The brief, miserable social hour is over. You leave the dying embers of the bonfire and make your way through the mud and the darkness to your own long hut. You step inside, back into the familiar stench of unwashed bodies and damp straw. You find your designated spot on the floor and collapse onto your pallet. You are not a farmer, a husband, or a father. You are a tool, and you have been put away for the night. You close your eyes, praying for a sleep that will not come, knowing that in just a few short hours, the morning horn will sound, and the endless, brutal, and meaningless cycle will begin again. 2 weeks pass, or perhaps it is 3. Time has lost its meaning, becoming an endless, repeating cycle of misery, measured not in days, but in the number of stones you have hauled, the number of miserable meals you have consumed, and the number of times you have woken shivering in the pre-dawn blackness. The routine you have fallen into is a brutal, mind-numbing rhythm of labor and exhaustion. The mountain, the wall, and the camp have become your entire world. The life you had before, your farm, your village, the face of your wife, the sound of your son's laughter, has begun to feel less like a memory and more like a dream you once had. It is fading, losing its color and its substance, a ghost being slowly eroded by the harsh gray reality of your present. Then, one evening, the routine is broken. As you and the other work teams are making your final, stumbling descent from the mountain in the deep twilight, you see it. A strange, new light in the center of the camp. It is not the familiar, smoky orange of the great bonfires. It is the warm, inviting yellow glow of several lanterns hung from a cart. A merchant has arrived. A ripple of something that has not been felt in this camp for a long time. A raw, electric excitement passes through the exhausted men. A merchant is a rare and momentous event. He is a traveler, a storyteller, a tangible link to the world that exists beyond these oppressive mountain peaks. He brings with him not just goods, but something far more precious: news. The evening meal is a frantic, hurried affair. Men wolf down their millet gruel with an uncharacteristic speed, their eyes constantly glancing towards the merchant's cart. which has become the new center of the camp's universe. As soon as the last bowl is empty, a great crowd of men, a desperate, ragged wave of humanity, surges towards the cart. The guards, normally so quick to beat down any sign of disorder, simply stand back, their expressions wary. They understand that to deny the men this small, rare pleasure would be to risk a riot. You are caught up in the surge. You push and shove with the rest of them, a strange, forgotten energy coursing through your weary body. It is hope, a feeling so foreign it is almost painful. The merchant, a tough, pragmatic-looking man with a weathered face and shrewd eyes, stands on his cart, his lanterns illuminating the sea of desperate faces turned up towards him. He is selling what you would expect: small, precious bags of salt, skins of cheap, harsh rice wine, crudely made talismans to ward off injury. Men are bartering what little they have: a small piece of jade one of them found in the quarry, a promise of a day's ration, a well-made straw sandal. But the real commerce is in information. "Master merchant," a man shouts, his voice cracking with desperation. "Have you come from the south? From Hene? What of the rice harvest?" "The harvest is good," the merchant calls back, his voice loud and clear. "The emperor's granaries will be full." A low murmur of relief passes through the crowd. "Is there word of the northern tribes?" another man asks. "Are they restless?" "The wall you are building keeps them quiet," the merchant says, a piece of easy flattery that earns him a few weak cheers. Then you see your chance. You push your way through the throng, your heart pounding in your chest with a force that surprises you. The hope you thought had been ground into dust by the mountain has been rekindled into a painful burning flame. Your village, Willow Grove, lies on the main route from the south. This man must have passed through it. He must have news. He might, if the gods are kind, even have a message. A small folded piece of paper from your wife that would be more precious to you than all the emperor's gold. You finally reach the edge of the cart, your voice a hoarse, desperate croak. "Master merchant," you call out, grabbing the side of the cart to steady yourself. "I am from Willow Grove, in the valley of the White Stream. Do you have any word, a letter, a message for the wall?" The merchant looks down at you. His expression is not unkind, but it is weary. The look of a man who has been asked the same question 1,000 times in 100 different camps. He pauses for a moment, his brow furrowed in thought as he searches his memory. It is the longest moment of your life. In that small, silent pause, your entire past, your entire hope for a future, hangs in the balance. Then he shakes his head. "Willow Grove," he says, his voice losing its loud public tone, becoming quieter, more personal. "Yes, a small place. I passed through 10 days ago. A good place for water. But no, son, no messages for the wall from there. Nothing." The word hangs in the air. Nothing. The burning flame of hope in your chest is extinguished, not with a flicker, but as if a bucket of ice water has been thrown upon it. The world seems to rush in on you. The smoke, the noise of the crowd, the biting cold. It is not just the lack of a letter. It is the nothingness. It is the confirmation of your deepest, most secret fear. You have been forgotten. You are a ghost, a name that is no longer spoken in the place you called home. As if sensing your despair, the merchant leans closer. "Listen," he says, his voice a low, conspiratorial murmur. "It is not your family's fault. The new magistrate in that province, he has forbidden all letters to the wall. He says that news from home breeds discontent and encourages desertion. It is an imperial policy now. His words are meant, perhaps, as a small comfort, but they are 1,000 times more devastating. Your isolation is not an accident of fate. It is not that your wife has forgotten you, or that a letter was lost. It is a deliberate, calculated act of the state. You have been officially severed from your past. You have been unplugged from the world. You stumble back from the cart. the voices of the other men and their desperate questions fading into a dull roar. You push your way out of the crowd and find a dark, quiet spot at the very edge of the camp's firelight. You look up at the great dark silhouette of the wall against the star-dusted sky. You understand now. The wall is not just a barrier being built to keep the northern tribes out. It is a barrier that has been built to keep you in. It's a wall between you and your life, between you and your memories, between you and your very name. And there is no way back across it. The physical misery of the labor is nothing compared to this new, profound, and utterly desolate loneliness. You are truly, finally, and completely alone. In the days that follow the merchant's visit, a new and dangerous kind of cold settles into your heart, a chill that no fire can warm. The news that you have been officially severed from your past, that your isolation is not an accident, but a deliberate policy, has broken something deep within you. The faint, desperate hope of an eventual return was a small, flickering candle that had kept you moving through the darkness of your misery. Now, that candle has been extinguished. All that remains is the cold, hard reality of the wall. Your body still performs the work. You still rise to the horn's mournful call. You still join the shuffling lines for the morning muster. You still climb the mountain, haul the stones, and mix the mortar. Your muscles, trained by months of grueling repetition, go through the motions. But the spirit, the small, stubborn spark of the man you once were, has retreated. Your movements become listless, mechanical. You swing the hammer, but the blows are less certain. You lift the rubble, but your pace is slower. Your eyes, which once scanned the worksite with a survivor's alertness, are now dull and unfocused, staring into a middle distance that holds only the ghosts of your memories. You are no longer just a prisoner. You are becoming a ghost, a hollowed-out man, your body a simple machine that continues to function long after its driver has abandoned the controls. And this change does not go unnoticed. The overseers, your immediate masters, are not just drivers of labor. They are expert observers of it. Their own survival depends on their ability to manage their human resources, to spot the weak link in the chain, the dying ox in the team. For 2 days, you feel his eyes on you. It is the overseer from the morning muster, the one with the long, thin scar that pulls one side of his mouth into a permanent sneer. You feel his gaze on your back as you work in the mortar pit. You feel him watching you as you stumble on the path. His gaze is not one of sympathy or concern. It is the cold, analytical gaze of a craftsman inspecting a tool that has begun to show signs of wear. On the 3rd day, as you are working with a hauling team, pulling a great stone sledge up a ramp, he makes his move. The team is chanting, a low, rhythmic grunt, to coordinate the pull. Your own voice is silent. You are pulling, your body straining, but you have no spirit left for the chant. The overseer strides up beside you. He does not shout. He simply walks in pace with you, his bamboo cane held lightly in his hand. "The rope is heavy today, farmer," he says, his voice deceptively calm. You do not answer. You just keep pulling, your eyes fixed on the frozen ground. "I have seen you," he continues, his voice still low, a private conversation in the midst of the grunting chaos. "Your body is here on the wall, but your mind is in the south, is it not? You are thinking of your fields, of your wife." His words are so close to the truth that a jolt of pure cold fear cuts through your numb despair. You risk a sideways glance. His face is impassive, but his eyes are sharp, intelligent, and utterly devoid of pity. "That is a dangerous luxury," the overseer says. He taps the side of your leg with his cane, not a blow, but a firm, proprietary gesture, the way a man might tap a horse to urge it on. The emperor does not require your memories. He does not require your hopes. He requires stones to be laid. The wall requires your body, your mind, and your spirit. You are giving it only your body. This is an inefficient arrangement. You look into his eyes, and in their hard, weary depths, you see not a monster, but something far more terrifying, another prisoner. He is a soldier, a minor officer, a man exiled to this God's forsaken frontier for some past failure or political misstep. His fine winter clothes cannot hide the fact that he is as trapped here as you are. His fate, his career, perhaps even his life, is tied to the number of feet of wall that this section completes by the first snows. Your despair, your slowness, your broken spirit, it is a direct threat to his own survival. Your misery is a logistical problem he must solve. Men whose spirits are broken are a disease, he says, his voice now a low, menacing whisper. The sickness spreads. A man without hope is a man who becomes clumsy. He drops stones. He falls from the scaffolding. He weakens the morale of the men around him. He is a faulty part in a great machine. He lets the silence hang for a moment. His gaze unwavering. We have ways of curing such diseases, he concludes, his voice a blade of ice. We have ways of removing faulty parts. Remember this, farmer. The wall has a use for a strong back. It has no use for a sad heart. He says nothing more. He taps your leg one last time with the cane, a final, chilling reminder of his authority, and then he strides away to harass another work team. The encounter is over. His words, intended to shock you back into a state of productive fear, have succeeded. You are left with a new and terrifying understanding. You are not even allowed the private luxury of your own despair. Your inner world is not your own. Your spirit, your hope, your will to live, these are not personal feelings. They are resources that belong to the state, and to allow them to fail is a form of treason. You are faced with a grim and absolute choice. You can surrender to the ghost you are becoming and be cured by the overseer, a process that you know will be final. Or you can find a way to rebuild your own internal walls, to become a better, more efficient machine. You take your place back on the rope. The overseer's chant begins again. Heave and pull. This time, you join in. Your voice is a hoarse, broken croak, but it is a voice. The despair is still there, a cold, hard stone in the pit of your stomach. But now you begin to build a wall around it. You have been given a new, more immediate purpose. Your job is not to hope for freedom. Your job is not to dream of home. Your job is to survive. And you now understand that survival on the Great Wall requires not just a strong body, but a spirit that is either unbreakable or has been broken so completely that it no longer feels anything at all. In the days following your silent confrontation with the overseer, you transform yourself. You force the ghost of your past life, the memories of your wife and your farm, into a small, locked room in the back of your mind. You build a wall around your own despair. Your movements become more efficient. Your face, a hard, blank mask of pure, functional obedience. You join the chants of the hauling teams, your voice a hoarse, guttural bark. You swing the sledgehammer with a focused, mechanical rhythm. You have become a better tool. And the overseer, his gaze now satisfied, moves on to find other, weaker parts of the great machine to fix. This new, willed numbness is your only shield, and you guard it fiercely. The work continues, a relentless, grinding cycle of labor and exhaustion. But then, one afternoon, you sense a change. It is not something you see or hear at first. It is something you feel in the air. The wind, your constant, howling enemy, has fallen silent. A sudden absence of its voice is more unnerving than its loudest shriek. A deep, profound, an unnatural quiet settles over the entire mountain. The rhythmic chipping of the chisels, the shouts of the men, all of it sounds small and fragile in the vast, waiting silence. You look up at the sky. It is no longer the familiar watery gray or the brilliant cold blue. It has become a low, heavy, and completely uniform sheet of white. It is a sky without features, without depth, a solid, luminous lid that seems to be pressing down on the world. You look at the men around you. They have felt it too. Hammers are paused in mid-swing. Men look up from their work, their faces tilted towards the strange white sky, sniffing the air like animals, sensing a change in the weather. Even the overseers seem to have lost their swagger, their loud commands replaced by a quiet, watchful tension. Every man here, born of the earth, knows this feeling. It is the deep, collective breath the world takes just before the first snow. Then you see it. A single, large, and impossibly perfect snowflake drifts down from the white emptiness above. It floats lazily, turning in the still air, a small, white ghost in a gray world. It is a thing of delicate, intricate beauty, a jewel crafted by a god. It lands on the rough, dirty sleeve of your tunic and vanishes instantly, a brief, cold kiss. Then another appears. Then a dozen. Within minutes, the air is filled with a thick, silent, swirling multitude. It is not a violent blizzard, but a soft, relentless, and suffocating descent of white. The distant mountain peaks, which have been the jagged edges of your world for months, disappear, erased from existence. The other work teams further down the wall become hazy, indistinct phantoms. Their shouts and the sounds of their labor muffled and then extinguished by the falling snow. The world shrinks. Your entire universe is now a small, claustrophobic circle of visibility, a swirling vortex of white flakes against the dark, half-finished stone of the wall. An order is shouted, passed from one overseer to the next along the length of the work site. The work continues. The words are a death sentence. The men groan, a low, unified sound of despair. To stop work would be to miss the emperor's quota. The approaching deep winter is a deadline that cannot be moved. And so, the great, miserable machine grinds back into motion, but now under conditions that have turned a dangerous job into a nearly impossible one. The world becomes a blur of white and gray, a treacherous landscape of shifting surfaces. The fine, dry snow coats everything in a thin, slick layer. The bamboo poles of the scaffolding, which were already precarious, are now coated in a film of treacherous ice. The surfaces of the great stone blocks become impossibly slippery. The narrow, rubble-strewn paths are hidden beneath a blanket of white, every footstep a blind gamble. You are tasked with hauling mortar again, and the work is a special kind of hell. Your worn straw sandals, which offered little enough grip on the dry rock, are now useless, sliding and slipping on the snowy ground. You are forced to dig your bare toes into the freezing mud to find purchase. The wet, heavy snow soaks through the thin cotton of your clothes in moments. The dry cold of the morning was a familiar enemy, one you could almost build a tolerance to. This wet cold is a different monster entirely. It clings to you, a second skin of ice, and it does not just touch your body. It actively leaches the warmth from your very core. Your hands, already raw, are now numb, club-like things. You can barely feel the rough, splintery wood of the bucket handle. You see a man ahead of you slip on a patch of icy stone, his feet flying out from under him. He falls with a sharp cry, and his bucket of mortar tumbles down the embankment, a wasted gray splash against the pure white snow. An overseer is on him in a second, his bamboo cane rising and falling, the blows a dull thud in the snow-muffled air. The man does not cry out. He simply curls into a ball, protecting his head until the beating is over. Then he slowly, painfully gets back to his feet and stumbles back down the path to get another load. The soundscape of the wall has been completely transformed. The sharp, percussive sounds of the quarry are gone, swallowed by the thick, insulating blanket of the snow. The world becomes eerily quiet. The only sounds are the rising howl of the wind, which has now returned with the storm, the muffled, desperate shouts of the overseers, and the soft, sinister whisper of a million snowflakes landing on stone, on wood, and on the backs of freezing, exhausted men. Finally, after an eternity of this white misery, the evening horn blows, its sound thin and almost lost in the howling blizzard. The workday is over. You drop your bucket, your entire body a single, trembling block of ice. The brief relief is instantly replaced by a new, more terrifying thought: the descent. You turn and look at the path leading down the mountain. It is gone. In its place is a steep, smooth, and unbroken slope of pure white. You look at the wall itself. The great stone dragon is being draped in a pristine white shroud, its raw, ugly lines softened, its brutal reality hidden beneath a veneer of impossible beauty. It looks like a sleeping god. But you know the truth. This beautiful white blanket is a killer. And the journey back to the camp will be a suicidal nightmare. Winter has not just arrived. It has declared war. The overseer's horn has blown, but its note of release is a cruel joke. The workday is over, but it has been replaced by a new and far more terrifying task: surviving the descent. The blizzard, which began as a soft, silent curtain of white, has become a raging, howling monster. The wind has returned with a vengeance, driving the snow horizontally, a blinding, stinging torrent of ice and air. Visibility is gone. The world has been reduced to a chaotic, churning vortex of white. The descent is a nightmare. The path you climbed this morning is completely gone, buried under a foot of fresh, drifting snow. You are moving blind. The only guide is the vague shape of the man in front of you, a dark, stumbling ghost in the blizzard. You are a human chain, each wink depending on the one ahead not to lead you all off the edge of the mountain. The cold is a different beast now. It is a wet, seeping cold that penetrates your thin clothing instantly. The snow melts from the heat of your body. Then, the freezing wind turns your tunic into a sheet of stiff, clinging ice. The numbness in your hands and feet has returned. But it is a deeper, more dangerous numbness now. The kind that signals the beginning of frostbite. Men are falling all around you. You hear a sharp cry to your left, followed by the muffled thud of a body hitting a snowdrift. You do not look. You cannot look. To stop is to die. You must keep moving. The first rule of the wall is to save yourself. You are halfway down the treacherous path, your mind a numb haze of cold and fear, your movements purely mechanical. You are focused only on the heels of the man in front of you. He is an old man, one of the few others from your village of Willow Grove. His name is Chen. You have known him your entire life. Here on the wall, you have barely spoken, each man locked in his own private misery. You watch as Chen's foot slips on a patch of hidden ice. His legs go out from under him, and he falls hard, his side slamming against a half-buried rock. A sharp, ugly cry of pain is torn from his throat, a sound that is quickly swallowed by the howling wind. He tries to get up, but his leg buckles beneath him, and he collapses back into the snow, his face a mask of agony. The line of men behind you does not stop. They simply part, flowing around the fallen man like a river flowing around a stone. They do not look at him. Their faces are blank. To look is to acknowledge, and to acknowledge is to be tempted by a compassion that is a death sentence in this place. An overseer, his face a grim specter in the swirling snow, stomps his way over to the fallen man. "Get up, old man," he bellows, his voice a harsh roar against the wind. "The wall has no time for your weakness. Get up or be left." Chen tries again, his hands scrabbling for purchase in the snow, but he cannot put any weight on his leg. It is likely broken. He looks up, his eyes pleading, and he sees only the endless line of his fellow workers shuffling past, abandoning him to his fate. This is the law of the machine. The broken parts are left behind. You have already passed him. The voice of the overseer from weeks ago is a loud, clear bell in your mind. Men whose spirits are broken are a disease. We have ways of curing such diseases. The logical, survivalist part of your brain, the part that has kept you alive this long, screams at you to keep walking. Do not look back. Save yourself. But you stop. You turn and look back at Chen, lying broken in the snow. And in that moment, you do not see a faulty part of a great machine. You see a man from your village. You see the man who helped your father build his first storage shed. You see the man who gave your son a small wooden toy at the New Year festival. You see his face, not as a mask of misery, but as a map of your own lost world. The wall you have so carefully built around your own heart cracks. In a single, profound, and utterly irrational act of rebellion, you turn and walk back against the human tide. "What are you doing, fool?" the overseer snarls as you approach. "Leave him. He is done." You ignore him. You reach Chen and kneel beside him in the snow. Another man from your village, a young, strong boy named Li, has also stopped. He looks at you, his eyes wide, a silent question in them. You nod. Together, you and Li hoist the old man to his feet. Chen cries out in pain as his broken leg is jostled. He cannot stand on his own. He is dead weight. The two of you position yourselves on either side of him, draping his arms over your shoulders. You become his human crutches. The overseer is before you now, his face a mask of pure fury, his bamboo cane raised. "I gave an order. Leave him." You look at him, your gaze steady. You do not speak. You simply stand there, the weight of the old man heavy on your shoulders, the snow swirling around you. And in that moment, in the chaos of the blizzard, something shifts. Your small group of three, a tiny, defiant island of solidarity, is a force his simple authority cannot easily break. To beat you would take time and effort he does not have. With a final, venomous curse, he turns and stomps away into the blizzard, shouting at the men ahead to move faster. The rest of the descent is a special kind of hell. Your own exhaustion was already absolute. Now you are carrying the weight of another man. Every step is a torment. You slip, you slide, you fall to your knees, but you never let go of Chen. Li on the other side is a silent, grim presence, his young body straining with the effort. You move as one, a strange, three-bodied creature, stumbling and sliding through the white chaos. But it is different. The cold is still there, the pain is still there, but the hollow despair in your heart is gone. It has been replaced by a fierce, burning, and profoundly human sense of purpose. You are no longer just surviving for yourself. You are fighting for one of your own. You finally reach the camp, hours after the others, long after darkness has fallen. You are the last to arrive, 3 frozen ghosts stumbling out of the blizzard. The men from your village rush out from your hut to help, their faces a mixture of awe and terror at your defiance. They help you carry Chen inside and lay him by the fire. You collapse onto your pallet, your body a universe of pain, more exhausted than you have ever been in your life. You have defied an overseer. You have risked your own life. You have gained nothing. The old man's ration will be forfeit. His leg may never heal. But as you lie there, listening to his pained breathing, you feel a flicker of something you thought was dead. You feel the ghost of the man you used to be. The Emperor owns your body, your labor, and your time. But this single, foolish, compassionate act, this was yours. And in a world designed to grind you into dust, it is the only victory that matters. The blizzard that tried to kill you on the mountain now becomes your shield. It rages for 2 full days, a white curtain of howling wind and impenetrable snow that seals your valley off from the rest of the world. No work is possible. The overseers, trapped and impatient, confine all men to their huts. For 2 days, you are granted an almost unheard of luxury, respite. Your small corner of the long hut, the space occupied by the 11 remaining men from Willow Grove, transforms. The act of defiance on the path, the shared struggle to bring the old man Chen back from the brink, has reforged a bond that the misery of the wall had nearly ground to dust. You are no longer just a collection of isolated, desperate individuals. You are a village again. You tend to Chen as best you can. His leg is badly broken. The bone clearly visible beneath a rising swell of purple bruised flesh. There is no healer, no medicine. You can only do what you know from a lifetime of farm life. You force the bone back into a semblance of alignment, a brutal act that makes the old man scream, a sound that is mercifully lost in the howl of the blizzard outside. You bind his leg with splints made from a broken water bucket and strips of cloth torn from your own thin blankets. You pool your resources. Men who would have guarded their meager rations with their lives now willingly give a portion of their millet gruel to Chen, who is too weak with fever to collect his own. You give him your spot by the fire, the warmest and driest place in the hut. These are small, almost insignificant acts of sacrifice in the grand scheme of the world. But here, in this place where a man's only concern is his own survival, they are acts of profound, revolutionary love. On the second night of the blizzard, after forcing some warm water and a few bites of your own bread ration into the feverish old man, you finally surrender to the deep, bone-deep exhaustion you have been holding at bay. You find a small, empty space on the cold dirt floor, away from the fire, and collapse onto it, using a coil of rope as a pillow. Your sleep is not the shallow, anxious, vigilant doze of a sentry. It is a deep, bottomless bavers. And immediate plunge into the dark abyss of utter exhaustion. And in that darkness, you dream. You are home. It is not a vague and fleeting memory. It is a complete sensory immersion. You are standing in the small, sun-drenched yard behind your hut in Willow Grove. It is not winter. It is late summer, the air warm and heavy with the smell of rich, dark earth and ripening melons. The sun is a warm, benevolent weight on your shoulders, a feeling so glorious and so forgotten that you want to weep. You can feel the familiar, comforting texture of your own wooden hoe in your hands, its handle worn smooth and dark from the sweat of your own labor. You see the vibrant, almost painful green of your small vegetable patch, the leaves of the cabbages glistening with dew. You see the gentle, drooping branches of the great willow tree by the stream, its leaves rustling in a soft, warm breeze. You hear the familiar, contented clucking of your chickens as they scratch in the dirt. And then you see her, your wife. She is sitting on a small wooden stool outside your door, her hands busy with her weaving. But she looks up as you approach, and she smiles. Her smile is the sun. It is the center of your entire universe. It is a thing of such pure, uncomplicated warmth and love that the sight of it makes your heart ache with a joy so intense it is almost a form of pain. "You are back," she says, her voice the sound you have been trying to remember in the cold. Silent nights on the wall. "I am back," you say. Your son, a small boy of 4, comes running from behind the hut, chasing a chicken with a stick, his delighted shrieks of laughter filling the air. He sees you and stops, his eyes wide, and then he runs to you, his small, warm body colliding with your legs. You reach down and lift him up, his weight light and familiar, his small arms wrapping around your neck. He smells of sun and dirt and the sweet, innocent sweat of a child. You try to speak. You try to tell them about the wall. You try to describe the cold, the overseers, the mountains made of stone and misery. But the words will not come. They do not exist in this world. This world of warmth and love has no language for such things. You are home. You are safe. You are happy. And then the dream begins to fray at the edges. The warmth of the sun on your back becomes a patch of icy cold on the floor. The rich, sweet smell of the earth and the cooking fire is slowly replaced by the sour, acrid stench of the hut. The sound of your son's laughter fades, and in its place, you hear the harsh, wet cough of the man sleeping beside you. Your wife's smiling face begins to dissolve, her eyes full of a sudden, terrible sorrow. "You have to go back, don't you?" she whispers. You open your eyes. You are back. The dream is gone. You are in the cold, dark, stinking reality of the work camp. A sliver of moonlight from a crack in the roof illuminates the miserable, sleeping forms of the other men. The blizzard has stopped, and the world is utterly silent. The dream evaporates, leaving behind an ache of loss so profound, so absolute, that it feels like a physical wound in your chest. The act of compassion for Chen allowed you to dream again, to remember the man you were. And the waking has shown you, with a new and brutal clarity, the vast, uncrossable chasm between that lost life and this one. The morning horn has not yet blown, but your brief, beautiful, and heartbreaking respite is over. And here, in the cold, pre-dawn darkness of a forgotten work camp, we leave him. We leave him with the ghost of his wife's smile on his mind, and the cold, hard reality of the dirt floor beneath him. A man whose name has been erased, whose past has been severed, but whose spirit, in a single defiant act of compassion, proved to be stronger than the stone he was forced to move. His story, this cycle of brutal labor, profound loss, and a single, flickering moment of humanity, is just one. One story among millions. For the Great Wall of China is not a single entity built in a single era. It is a vast, sprawling monument built over centuries, its foundations laid not just with stone and sticky rice mortar, but with the anonymous, unrecorded lives of countless souls just like him. Now, let the image of that dark, miserable hut fade. Let the memory of his dream of home dissolve. And let us journey forward in time to the present day. Picture a man standing on a beautifully restored section of that same Great Wall. The sun is warm on his shoulders. He wears comfortable hiking shoes and a lightweight jacket. He raises a camera and captures the breathtaking view of the wall snaking over the majestic green mountains. He might complain to his companion about the steepness of the steps or the number of other tourists crowding the walkway. He stands on the very same stones that you hauled. He walks on the battlements that Master Liu shaped with his expert hands. The breathtaking view he admires was, for you, a constant, terrifying reminder of your imprisonment. The ground beneath his comfortable shoes is a testament not just to the ambition of an emperor, but to the silent, enduring strength of the forgotten men who paid the true price for its construction. The real wall is not made of stone. it is made of their stories. And now, as our story ends, it is time for our own quiet. Time to rest in a world built upon the foundations of sacrifices we can never truly comprehend. Time to be thankful for a life where the mountains are a thing of beauty, not a place of labor. Time to sleep.